Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and it's lovely to have you join me. Now, it's been 4 years since we first heard of the dreaded C word. No, not that word, but it is COVID-19. Today, 1 in 5 adults are infected with COVID-19 and are still suffering the effects months after their diagnosis. It's now understood that COVID-19 is much more complex than first thought, and long COVID has more than 200 potential symptoms. For clinical nutritionist Lee Holmes, usually the picture of perfect health, a bout of COVID left her struggling to get out of bed, barely able to muster enough energy to seek help for herself. Lee's holistic approach not only helps improve symptoms, but gets to the root cause. The result of her illness and her investigations is her latest book, Nature's Way to Healing, a step-by-step guide to help shorten long COVID's duration so sufferers can recover faster and get back to enjoying life. Now, I've had a look at some of the symptoms and they are also similar to those of us who have experienced perimenopause. So perhaps Lee might have some holistic lifestyle improvements that you can incorporate into your life as well. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Lee. It's so lovely to have you join me on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Now, I said in my introduction that, we talked about the C word, not the bad word, but COVID. And I have to say that, touch wood, I haven't had anything as yet. But you haven't been quite so fortunate as a lot of other people haven't. So I just wondered if you could, first of all, tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, and then also how your life changed when COVID came along.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I'm Lee and I have a website called superchargedfood.com and then also another website called superchargeyourgut.com. And I'm a qualified clinical nutritionist, so my passion is gut health. And about 12 years ago, I started my website, Supercharged Food, because I wanted to talk about gut health and autoimmune issues and things like that. So I started putting recipes up on my website and it got really popular. And from there, I wrote a book and now I've written 11 books. So I really love natural health and I love helping people. So I see clients in my clinic and I've got products as well. And then it was interesting because in 2022 in April, I was over in England and I was doing some work on my business over there and I got COVID. But I thought to myself, oh, this is fine. You know, a week later, I'll be home. I'll be on the plane. I'll be home. I'll be back in Palm Beach in Sydney, you know, doing what I love and working with clients. And it didn't turn out that way. I ended up in hospital in London and then I was there for 3 months just trying to get back home. But what I had developed was long COVID. So it didn't just get better after the first week or two of having COVID-19. It actually extended for a period of like up to 6 months. And some people have it for up to 2 years or longer. And yeah, so I was very debilitated. And long COVID is where you have COVID-19, but it doesn't end after the first couple of weeks. It continues on. And then there's also a myriad of different symptoms that come along with that.
Yes, I read that there's something like 200 different symptoms that you can have. But I suppose when I was listening to you, my thoughts go back to those that have chronic fatigue syndrome and things like that, where people sort of say, well, come on, buck up. You know, you've only had, it's only COVID, for example, with you. It's only COVID, you know, you do your quarantine and off you go. And they can't understand that, you know, because I even thought to myself when I first heard of long COVID a little while ago, I thought, oh, you know, I wonder what that's all about, because you just sort of don't expect that sort of thing to happen. So, you know, you went through that period, and
Mm.
you, from that experience, you've written your recently published book, Nature's Way to Healing, a long COVID guide. So what prompted you to write the book, and what can the readers expect?
Yeah, really good question. Thank you. So here's the book, Nature's Way to Healing, a long COVID guide there. And when I did finally make it back to Sydney, I remember I got out of the car and I had to crawl up my steps. I have about 46 steps leading up to my house, and I was dragging my suitcase behind me, and I was absolutely exhausted. And I went to bed for 3 months. I had pericarditis, and which is like a lot of chest pain. I had a lot of joint pain and debilitating fatigue as well. I just had to literally not really go out and stay home. And I had some really dark moments, because with COVID and long COVID in particular, it's not just a respiratory problem, it's a multi-system problem, and it cuts across so many different areas of the body. So I was still kind of trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And the doctors back in 2022, because it was such a new thing, they didn't really have much to go on. There wasn't really any research around long COVID. So it's quite difficult to get a diagnosis. I did get a diagnosis of pericarditis and long COVID eventually, but that was really hard. And I struggled a lot with my mental health. I was isolated. I couldn't go out. I wasn't really interacting with friends and family so much. And during that time, there's some really dark moments. And I got to a point where I was like, I can continue on like this, or I could try and, if I'm struggling like this, I'm sure that there are so many other people around the world struggling too. So why don't I try and put what little energy I did have into writing a book? And in that way, I can research as well and speak to some of the most, I've spoken for this book to some of the most amazing scientists, professors, medical practitioners from around the world, and interviewed them for the book. And so I kind of put my energy into that. I had to pace myself a lot though. So in
Mm,
the book, yeah, in the book, there's 30 low histamine recipes, because there's a link between histamine, mast cell activation, and long COVID, and the anti-inflammatory recipes, because there's also a link between inflammation and long COVID. So they'll expect recipes. There's also my journey of long COVID, and I have case studies in there as well. There's a symptom tracker. There's a symptom tracker. There's also a pacing diary. There are all these tools in the book as well that you can use. And then also I go through each system of the body and how it affects each system of the body. And not only that, I have a protocol in there as well. So I interviewed and worked with a herbalist and naturopath for the naturopathic side of things. I did the clinical nutrition side of things. So there's a nutrition plan. So it's a really well-rounded book, and it will help people recover faster from having
mm,
long COVID.
mm. Just going back to your down times, or dark places,
Mm.
I can get that, because you've gone from being a healthy woman enjoying life and getting on with it, and then bang, you've completely the opposite. So, you know, the book would have been good for you for your mental health as well, because it gave you a project to work on. But what other things did you do to sort of manage the long COVID, and manage your mental health as well as the physical health?
Yeah, I did. So one of the biggest things, and it sounds very simple, but one of the biggest things that I implemented was pacing. So, when as women, and particularly working women and mothers and things like that, we kind of push ourselves and we don't know when to stop. We just keep going. So I had to learn the art of pacing. And so I would work for 20 minutes and then have a 5-minute break. And then I would finish work at 5 o'clock as opposed to working, through the night. I would take weekends off. So I had to really learn boundaries, and I had to learn how to pace myself and not push myself past that limit, whereby if I did, I would be in bed for a week afterwards because I couldn't actually do anything. So pacing was really difficult to learn as someone who's a go-getter, perfectionist, all of those types of things. So that was one of the hardest things that I learned. And the other thing that is a non-negotiable for me is meditation, and obviously types of breathing practices, which really help to settle down the nervous system, to get into that parasympathetic nervous system so that you can then feel better, rejuvenate your body, your cells kind of start working better. But you really do have to rest. And that's one of the hardest things to do for some people.
Yes, yes. And especially as you say, if you're someone that is on the go 24/7, or
Mm,
I'm a bit like that. So I would find it difficult if I do get ill. I find it difficult to go down to it, sort of thing, and not keep
yeah,
trying to push through. And then,
yeah,
as you say, because with you set yourself up because you're doing all these things, and then you feel responsible for other people, or I've got a commitment here, I can't let that down, but I really feel I just can't do it. Instead of just saying, look, this is the situation, we try to push through it, but we
mm,
don't realize that people will understand. And
yeah.
if they don't, well, that's just tough, because you do have to put the priority back on yourself, and we're not very good at doing that.
No, and putting in boundaries is really difficult, especially if you're a people pleaser like me and someone that wants to help and an empath and that kind of thing. So putting in those boundaries doesn't mean that you don't want to or don't like the person. It's just about you're putting yourself first because you know that you need to in that moment really look after your health. And that's the most important thing, really, isn't it?
Exactly. And I was just thinking, are you still, how long does it last for? Or is it something that they don't know and you just have to work around and find tools and resources that you can incorporate into your life to help you cope?
Yeah, so it can last up to 2 years or longer. But for some people, what I've noticed is if I do too much, it comes back again. So it's almost like it's still in the system and it's still kind of wavering there. So that's why you really do have to continually get into the toolbox and take those tools out and start using them again. Because you feel like you can go and do like a marathon walk or whatever, and then you come back and you're in bed for a week, as I mentioned before. So yes, I think it's different for everybody. Some people have it for a few months and then start to feel better. Some people are longer. Everyone has different, out of the 200 plus symptoms, everyone has different experiences, long COVID. So yeah, it's really about learning about it and learning your limitations, I think.
Mm, mm. Um, it's it would be a complete change of lifestyle then, wouldn't it? Because as you say, you think you can go and do something, you go and do it, and then you come back and you've just put yourself back 10 steps because
Yeah.
you've just exhausted yourself. So it is I suppose it's becoming aware and accepting that this is the situation, this is what I need to do if I want to stay well, and just changing your mindset, which is so hard, isn't it?
So it's one of the hardest things, I think, especially when friends invite you to lunch, or, I want to see my daughter, or, family things are happening and you have to say no, and you do start to feel a bit isolated. Definitely affects your mental health.
Mm, mm. And they probably wouldn't, well, family would hopefully understand, but
Mm.
friends may not always understand what you're going through. And this might seem a very naive question, but I would assume that your immune system is always compromised because you've got the long COVID. So you'd have to be
Yeah.
careful of where you're going and who you're seeing and what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a thing called viral persistence where the virus can stay within the body and it stays in there in certain areas. It can go into the gastrointestinal system. It can pass the blood-brain barrier. You can get neuroinflammation. You can get brain fog. So if you're meeting people and they have the virus at that time, you can then sort of add to your symptoms by getting more of being exposed to the virus again. So you do have to be a bit careful, but also I've had COVID 3 times now and long COVID 3 times. So I have a bit of a natural immunity, which is good. However, yeah, you're absolutely right. You do sort of have to be careful, especially with your immune system pushing yourself too hard.
Mm, mm. So you're talking about some symptoms there, like the brain fog, the lethargy, um, inflammation, and they are similar to perhaps what women go through for perimenopause and when they're going through menopause and maybe beyond. So
Yeah.
perhaps your book, they could adapt some things that you've got in your book
Yeah.
to your holistic lifestyle changes that you've made. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this book would be good for anyone with chronic fatigue, any kind of post-viral illness, obviously long COVID as well, glandular fever, Epstein-Barr virus, but also for people going through menopause. I'm actually in menopause at the moment. I'm 57. So I've
Mm,
been going through, and I've noticed that, the night sweats, the headaches, the lethargy, very, very similar. Sometimes I don't know whether it's long COVID or whether it's, menopause. So
mm,
all of these the natural protocol within the book really helps perimenopause and menopause as well. Because the protocol and the recipes help to give you energy, balance out the hormones, and lower inflammation and any dysregulation within the body. So it's definitely going to help going through menopause too.
because I know that some of the listeners are in that situation and I was just, as I was reading it through, I was thinking, oh, this could be adapted to most people really for the different symptoms. So
Yeah.
you've got recipes in the book. Can you
Yeah.
share a couple of your favorite ones with us and why you've put them in there? What can they do for us?
Yes. Okay. I'll show you I'll show you this one. This is a ginger salmon rice bowl. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see
that
that,
looks delicious.
but that's
Yes.
really
Yeah.
easy to make and super delicious and very anti-inflammatory. So I really like that one. And then I wanted to show you, oh, these are my favorite. These are the rainbow rice paper rolls. I don't know if you can see that, but
Yeah.
super
Yes.
easy and super healthy with lots of different colors and different veggies in them. So you're getting all those antioxidants, you're getting vitamin C, you're getting all of the color, you're eating the rainbow basically with those, and they're yummy and they come with a nice little dressing as well. So they're two
Mm.
of my favorite easy, simple recipes, ingredients from your supermarket that you can make.
And I think that's the key, the easy to make,
Mm,
because I suppose if you live on your own, for example, you don't really want to go to the effort of cooking and if you're not feeling well. So if something's quick
yeah,
and easy, that's the key, isn't it? You want to get that
yeah,
nutritional value into you and not sort of
yeah.
just be calling for Uber to deliver food all the time. So, yeah,
That's
so I
right. Well,
suppose that's the other thing. Go
yeah,
on.
so I'm an empty nester now. My daughter's just moved to Berlin. So
Oh,
yes, I know exactly what you mean now. By when you're living alone and you kind of don't feel like cooking, especially when you've got long COVID. The last thing you
mm.
want to do is cook a really extravagant meal for yourself. So that's why I made the recipes. My daughter and I did the recipes together, actually. She's really good with food too. So it was nice when we were doing the book, we created all the recipes together. So
Oh, that's lovely. Yes. But
yeah,
the other thing is that the simple recipes, I know that, if you look at the blue zones where, the old they've got the most people that live the longest in the
The
world. They
longevity, yeah,
tend to have very basic
yeah,
few ingredients, but it's all
yeah.
fresh and natural, and that doesn't take much to make them. So I think, that's the key. For so long, we've sort of been looking at having to come up with these elaborate meals and, sauces and things like that. And yet, really coming back to the basics and good, fresh food is the way we should be going.
I agree. I think simple is always best. And obviously you want it to be easy to make, but you also want to make it so that it's delicious and it is not, how some simple recipes are a bit boring and they're a bit bland.
Yes.
So I've
Yes.
tried to also incorporate them tasting good as well, tasting yummy, and they do. My daughter's a
Mm,
week at that. She can just go into the fridge and just make, there'll be a few ingredients in there and she can whip something up and it always tastes really good. So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like we have achieved that with this book.
That's good. And also, if you have a family, um, I mean, they're going to get the benefit of it as well. And as you say, sometimes the healthy options can be boring, but if they look colourful, if they taste nice,
Yeah.
the family's going to get the benefit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've got a lot of other cookbooks as well for family, with family recipes and anti-inflammatory recipes. And I've got a menopause book as well. So yeah, I've got all
Okay,
the
yes,
options.
because I was going to get onto that because you'd said you'd written 11 books, was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
11.
So would you like to talk a little bit about those as well? You've said there's one on menopause. Is that set out the same as what you've got for um, the Nature's Way to Healing, or
Actually,
is
the
it like a
menopause,
guide?
yeah, is more of a guide, it's more of a cookbook for menopause. And then I've got a book called Heal Your Gut and Supercharge Your Gut. So they're all around gut health. And I
Mm,
have a book called Eat Yourself Beautiful, and that is all around anti-inflammatory family style eating, which I really like. I also wrote
mm,
a book on fasting, so Fast Your Way to Wellness. It's all around sort of intermittent fasting and why that could be good for a certain amount of people. Um, what else have I got? I've got a vegetarian cookbook. I can't remember them all off the top of my
well,
head.
with 11, it'd be hard to remember them all. But can I just pick up a couple of, we're sort of getting away from the long COVID, but the anti-inflammatory and the gut health.
Yeah.
Now, they're two things that are sort of could even become buzzwords at the moment. There's a lot of people talking about gut health. There's a lot of people that talk about anti-inflammatory foods. But
Mm.
I'm not sure they always go into a layman's terms of what they mean. And so people can sort of go, oh, yeah, the gut, too hard to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it's too scientific for me, or
Mm.
anti-inflammatory, I don't really get that. So I wondered if we could just spend a few moments talking about those two issues.
Yeah, so sure. So gut is the epicenter to health. It's like the engine room, as we know. So all your food and hydration goes through there, and you want it to be nice and robust and nice and healthy. And 80% of your immune tissue is located within your gut. And then you have the brain gut connection, which affects mood as well. So you want your gut to be nice and healthy. However, some things throw off the balance of the good and bad bacteria in the gut, the microflora, as it were. And those things are like alcohol, smoking, antibiotics, processed foods, too much sugar, stress. They can all affect that balance. And when the balance of your microbiome or your gut bacteria goes off, you can start to feel tired after eating. You can start to be bloated, have gas, those kinds of symptoms. So really it's about feeding the gut and looking after the gut and feeding it with foods that are going to build up the healthy colonies of good bacteria in the gut and also reduce inflammation. So
Mm,
inflammation is a big part of a lot of different conditions that happen. And you can get inflammation in the gut, which a lot of doctors say is the leading cause of many conditions. So inflammation within the gut and the lining of the gut. So looking at an anti-inflammatory style diet, you want to be looking at your good fats, flaxseed oil, chia seeds, avocado, things that are anti-inflammatory in nature, and having more of it's kind of like a Mediterranean style diet. When
Mm,
speaking to all the experts from around the world, they disagree on so many things, but one of the things they agree most on is that a Mediterranean style diet is probably the one that works across a lot of different systems and is probably the healthiest one out there.
And that's sort of lots of what's in a Mediterranean diet, usually fish and
That's it. Lots of fresh
legumes.
veggies, legumes, leafy greens, lots of color, sort of eating the rainbow, olive oil, those types of things.
And I think people can get caught up with uh, like, oh, I can't eat that and I can't eat that. But we do need a balanced diet, don't we? I know my husband has type 2 diabetes and he's now reading the nutrition labels on everything that he buys. And it's surprising that, you know, you look at something and it might be low in sugar, but then it's high in saturated fats. And, you know, you just need to have a scientific degree to understand them all at times. But
Yeah.
then he'll go, oh, I can't have carbs, or I can't have this, or I can't have that. But that's not necessarily the case. It's the type of carbohydrates, for example,
Absolutely.
that, and our bodies do need the
Yes,
range of different nutrients, don't they?
they do. And I always say balance is best. A little bit of sort of everything if you can. If you can stay away from too much sugar and stay away from
Mm,
too much alcohol and smoking, I think, and then try and eat as fresh as you can, even one fresh meal a day. If you can get fresh in there in your day, that's going to be really good. If you just look at color, if you try and sort of have things balanced on your plate, some protein, a little bit of good carbs, some sweet potato, that kind of thing, some veggies and leafy greens and some color on your plate, some good fats, you're doing well, I think.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's the same when you go out. I mean, you can make healthier options, or you might say, well, look, I'm going out and I'm just going to enjoy this, and then I'm going back on track. So, what I'd like to cover a little bit is just, well, mainly for the COVID, long COVID, but for just general health and well-being, what are some quick tips that the listeners could put into place today? Because as you say, if you've got long COVID or something like that where life can be overwhelming, I suppose you have to take baby steps as well, rather than saying, well, I'm going to fix it all up today. So what
Yeah.
are some sort of basic steps that people can take without getting that overwhelmed feeling of, oh, it's just too hard?
Mm. I think if I'm going through the day, when I wake up, I try and do a little bit of meditation. So even for 5 minutes, if you can just sit with yourself and just close the eyes, start breathing into the belly, maybe have a word or a sentence or a mantra that you want to say, even just for 5 minutes, that's going to set you up to be calmer throughout the day. And when things hit you and you able to respond in a bit more of a calmer way. That's what I find. And then in the mornings, having something that you enjoy. For me, I like to have a smoothie because I throw a lot of different ingredients in there. Like I put in rocket, which is very antihistamine, and then I'll put in some berries, some carrots, some cucumber, and then some of my supplements, my gut powder, my symbiotic as well. So I put all that in there, whiz it up, and then I feel it's quite energizing and I feel satiated from that. But
Mm,
whatever you like, whether it's porridge with some berries and some chia seeds on top, that's really nice thing to have. And then obviously trying to eat the rainbow as well during the day. So if you can get some color in, trying to stay away from too much sugar and processed foods. If you can do that, that's really helpful. And then taking breaks if you're working or doing things, taking breaks, not having lunch at your desk, so to speak, trying to maybe go outside and sit down if you work in an office and just spend time having more of a mindful, if you can, if you've got time, mindful lunch. That's going to help you digest things better. It's going to help
mm,
processes and you absorb the nutrients a lot better from your food rather than if you were on the run, you know, and running around and rushing. So yeah, it's just those checkpoints of just pacing, resting, breathing, and just, yeah, just being aware and checking in with yourself to see how you feel. They're my
Mm.
tips.
So, what about some gentle exercise? Because we need to move our bodies to keep it, healthy as well. But of
Yeah.
course, if you've got that long COVID, it's difficult to probably do much form of exercise. So, what would you do? Yoga, or what would you do or stretching? What would you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, so the first things I sort of did when I came back was would do a tiny walk, even walk across the road and back, and then it would get longer. So then I would go to the beach and back, which is just across the road, and then I would extend it, 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. Each day I'd try and do a little bit more walking. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm a yoga and meditation teacher. So for me, I love yoga and meditation, but I had to do it really gently. Because if you're doing too much, it's too overwhelming for the body.
Mm, mm,
Now it's coming into summer. Swimming might be a nice activity if you're near the water or have a pool or access to a pool. Swimming is nice and gentle. Things that are gentle on the body. Stretching is also really good. But I
mm,
wouldn't be doing, well, I still haven't gone back to HIIT workouts or anything too dramatic like that. And as you get older, I think that's quite hard on the body as well.
mm,
So
mm.
gentle forms of exercise are good.
Yes, yes, because your body does need to move. So when you're feeling lethargic, and that sometimes a change of movement can help, even if you just get up and walk into another room. That
Yeah.
sort of changes the body around a bit. So that
Yeah.
could be helpful, but you
Yeah.
don't want to overdo it.
No, no, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So, how are you feeling today, these days? Are you in a period where you don't have long COVID or?
Yes, I'm feeling a lot better now. But I come and go, to be honest with you. But I've got my protocols. And so whenever I feel myself getting tired, I will start putting in the protocols, taking the supplements I have, looking after myself better, pacing. I still do have a very much a low histamine anti-inflammatory style diet, which helps a lot.
Mm.
Eat regularly as well. So yeah, definitely feeling a lot better.
Oh, that's good. And what about when you go out? Do you have to wear a mask, or you just sort of
No, I
go
don't
out?
work. I don't
No.
think anyone really wears them. When I travel
No,
as
they
well,
don't. They
yeah, they
don't.
don't really wear them.
It's sort of become I think everyone's become a little bit blasé about COVID and saying, oh, well, it's just the same as the flu. But of
Mm,
course, for people like yourself, that it was more than that.
yeah.
It can be a bit harsh when people aren't really taking the precautions that they should be. And I think that
Mm,
you would, we touched on it before, where even though you're probably feeling well, you have to be aware of where you're going, who you're seeing,
yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah, and there are a lot of susceptible people. Older people can be susceptible to getting long COVID. Women also, people with autoimmune dysregulation can as well, mast cell activation syndrome. So there are a number of groups and types of people who are more susceptible to getting long COVID. So they would have to be a bit more aware of that as well.
Keeping it a bit more front and centre. Well, we're
Yeah.
coming towards the end of our interview today, Lee, and it's been very enlightening chatting to you and talking about not only long COVID but other general health issues. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention? I do have one question that I ask all of my guests, but I'll leave that to the end. So, is there anything that we haven't covered, or a message that you'd like to give to
Mm.
the listeners that they can take away today?
I think with, with things like menopause or any other chronic condition, it's really about tuning into your body and putting yourself first and um, sort of going in and finding out and becoming aware of what you need to make yourself feel better, and don't feel bad about that.
And it's becoming aware, isn't it? It's doing the research. Well, you've already done that with, and it's perhaps buying your book and also looking at some of the other books that you've written. I will be putting in the show notes all the links to where people can find you and your books and so forth. So we'll have that there for them. But my last question to you is, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
I think living well, being a woman is when you are able to be authentic with yourself and not necessarily follow fads or trends, but just intrinsically know what is needed for you. Living a holistic, more of a holistic, natural lifestyle for me works well for me. And having a spiritual side to that as well, whether it's meditation or spirituality. I think, wellness is more than just the food you eat or not eating a certain food. I think it's a very holistic thing. So yeah, taking all of that into account, I would say that that's what it means to me.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I pick up on the trends and the fads because a friend and I have just been talking lately about so much when you look on social media, it's you should be doing this. This is, or when you reach a certain age, you don't wear that, or this is what you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing that. And it's, we lose our identity because we're going, oh, well, that doesn't really feel comfortable with me, but I should be doing that because that's what they said a woman of my age should be doing. And I think that you're right. You've got to be authentic. You've got to think what's right for you. As you have with your books, you've written about intermittent fasting, but that may not necessarily be for everyone. And so it's a matter for us to come back to who we are, what we feel comfortable with, and having the courage not to follow the trends and the fads.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So it's been so lovely having you join me today, Lee, and I'm glad that you're feeling better at the moment, but obviously just changing your lifestyle to suit what's happened to you, and also bringing a positive out of it all by writing your book to help others, which is really commendable and a great project. I'm sure you felt a sense of satisfaction after that.
Really, really did. I'm very proud of this book. So yeah, I love it. Here it is.
Yeah, and I love the cover, and it looks quite meaty. It's quite a thick book, so there's lots of information in there. And so, as I said, it's Nature's Way to Healing, a long COVID guide, but I'm sure that there's lots of recipes and tips and information in there for other issues as well. So I'd encourage everyone to check out a copy of that. So thanks again for joining me, Lee.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was so much fun chatting with you.
And you take care.
You too.
Well, that was a very interesting conversation that I had with Lee Holmes, author of Nature's Way to Healing, a long COVID guide, plus an author of 10 other books as well. I discovered that there's over 200 symptoms for long COVID, and some of them are the same as other issues that we as women may face in life: perimenopause, inflammation, all gut health. So this episode, I think, has been more than just about long COVID. But that's it for this episode and for the series. I'll be taking a little break for a while and hopefully bringing you more interviews in the not too distant future. So thanks so much for your support and help. And remember to share this with a friend who would definitely benefit from some of the things that Lee has spoken about today. So take care. Remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.